भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Namaste my dear friends, this is video number 6 on Amrita Bindu or Brahma Bindu Upanishad. This video starts with Atma ever changeless. Now the following question may arise: if it be admitted that Manas is subject to birth and death, and that the Atma, who is unattached and indifferent to all, it's really affected by the attributes of Manas, then the Atma must be possessed of those attributes. The Shruti says in reply in stanza number 10, Ne nirodho ne चोत्पत्तिर्ने बद्धो न च साधके न मुमुक्षुर्ने वै मुक्ति इतिष्या परमार्थता. Meaning, no death, no birth, not the bound, nor the aspiring, not the seeker of liberation, nor the liberated. This is the supreme truth. There is really neither Manas nor the body subject to birth and death, none really bound by the bonds of avidya, etc., none practicing sannyasa, brahmacharya, and the like subsidiary acts. There is really none who seeks moksha. What appears to be the birth and death of Manas, the renunciation of this or that man, all this is false. Not really. This notion is an intuitive conviction of consciousness and is the real truth. Atma beyond the three states. Question: the Atma passes through Jagrit, Swapna and Susupti states, as no being can pass through these three conditions without undergoing change. How can there be no death, etc.? In answer to this question, Shruti says in stanza number 11, एक एवात्मा मंतव्यो जागृत स्वप्न सुषुप्तिषु स्थानत्रयवती यत्तस्य पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते. In Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, it should be thought that there is one Atma alone. To him who has risen beyond the three states, there is no longer any birth. It should be understood that Atma, the self-luminous witness of Buddhi, present to everybody's consciousness as the ego, is one alone, undergoing no change in all the three states of consciousness, namely Jagrit, the state of sensuous perception of objects; Swapna, the state in which the mind is conscious of the impressions left upon itself by previous sense perception; and Sushupti, the state in which the mind is unconscious of any particular object. He is the Turiya, the fourth. He is beyond the three states. He is unaffected by the birth, etc., of the three stages. Here he means Atma. Once a man realizes I am Brahma, he is no longer subject to birth anywhere at any time or in any manner, though by illusion he has hitherto fancied that he was subject to it. Atma appears different owing to upadhis. It may be asked, how can one appear as many? In answer to the Shruti says in stanza number 12, एक एव ही भूतात्मा भूते भूते व्यवस्थित एकदा बहुधा चैव दृश्यते जल चंद्रवत. For one only is the self in all beings, appearing different in different beings, as one and also as many. He even like the moon in water. The Atma is one only in all beings, moving and unmoving. There is none else of the same or different sort. Nor is there any division into parts in the Atman. The one Atma appears different in different beings, putting on the form of the bodies and the antahkarnas in which he manifests himself, though he is one in virtue of his essential nature as existence, intelligence, and bliss. He appears as many in the many upadhis. He appears as one when the upadhi is one, and as many when the upadhis are many. To illustrate, in a vast expanse of water, there is only one image of the moon reflected, and when water is contained in many vessels, the reflected images are as many. This illustration is intended to show that the jiva is to be conceived as a reflection of the Isvara, whether we hold that there is only one jiva or that there are many jivas. But the illustration is more apt when the jiva is supposed to be only one. Once the full meaning of this scriptural statement is clearly understood after being taught by the Guru, the enlightened man, in whatever state he may be, in the Jagrat or Swapna or Sushupti state, should ever meditate that the Atma who is beyond the three states is one and the same in all persons. He who knows the Atma who is beyond the three states shall even become the Atma. On learning that the Atma is free from all the differences, the idea of plurality associated with Jiva will disappear by reflection and reasoning. Analogy of Atma to Akasha. Here follows a description of the real nature of Paramatman. This is explained in stanza number 13. Ghat संवृत्तमा आकाशम नियमाने घटे यथा घटो नियत नाकाशः तथा जीवो नभोपमः. Just as when a jar is carried from place to place, it is the jar that is carried from place to place, not the akasha. The akashas which is enclosed as it were in the jar, so jiva is like the akasha. This is intended to illustrate the view that jiva is Ishvara with an upadhi, When on death the body passes from one region to another, the Atma, who is enclosed as it were in the body, goes nowhere. It is the body alone that passes from one region to another. How Atma differs from Akasha. This is explained in the next stanza. Jiva is not like the Akasas in all respects. Ghatvad vivid akaram भिद्यमानं पुनः पुनः तद्भग्नं न च जानाति से जानाति च नित्यशः. Like the jar, this is stanza number 40. Meaning, like the jar, the body is of different forms, breaking up again and again. And Akasa's known that it is broken while he always knows. The jar breaks up again and again, but never the all-pervading Akasha. So too, the body, etc., undergo decay again and again, but not the omnipresent Atman. The illustration applies only thus far. As regards consciousness, there is a difference. When the jar is carried from one place to another, or when it is broken, the Akasa does not know it, whereas the Jiva, the self-conscious, blissful Atma, is ever conscious of the changes the body, etc., undergo. How Jiva is identical with Brahma. Jiva is one or many. If Jiva is one only, it cannot be different from Atma. Each of the Jivas being one and of the same nature as the other, Atma is thus described in the Shruti. He is the one God, hidden in all beings, all pervading, the self within all beings, watching over all works, dwelling in all beings, the witness, the perceiver, the only one free from qualities. Savetosara Upanishad, chapter 6, stanza number 11. If there be many jivas, even then jiva cannot be different from Atma. Atma being the essence of jiva, jiva cannot be conceived to exist apart from Atma. Although Atman is identical with jivas who are many, there can be no plurality in Atman, who is all pervading. Atma is one in the many jivas, as the genus is one in the many individuals which make up the genus. In point of fact, there is not even one jiva distinct from Atman. How can there be many? The apparent difference is that there are among jivas are only due to the differences which are found in the upadhis with which the Atma is connected. If out of these upadhis be eliminated that element of reality which pertains to the basic substance, the Atma, then the upadhis themselves become unreal. This identity can be seen from the illustration cited above of the jar and the akasas. Atma without the upadhis, the physical, sthula, subtle, sukshma, and causal karna bodies corresponds to the Maha-akashas or the vast expanse of Akasa, while Jiva in the body corresponds to the Akasa of the jar, except through the Upadhi of the jar. The Akasa in the jar cannot be distinguished in any way from the Maha-akasha. Relation between Atma and Jiva. This illustration of Akasas and the jar serves to indicate many other facts concerning the relation between Jiva and Atma. 1. When the idea of limitations caused by a jar etc. is removed from the mind, the limited akasas become merged in the Maha-akasa. So also, when jivas are distinguished from their upadhi, they become one with Atma. This points to the fact that liberation is coeval with knowledge. 2. When the akasa enclosed in one jar is associated with dust and smoke, the other limited akasas are unaffected by the dust and the smoke. So too, when one jiva is associated with pleasure or pain, other jivas are unaffected by it. For pleasure or pain pertains only to the upadhi, which is not the same in all jivas. 3. The akasas in the jar etc. have different names given to them, serve different purposes, and assume different forms according to the upadhis. While the akasa is in itself remains unchanged, so too different jivas are associated with different forms and names and serve different purposes according to the upadhis, while the Atma remains one and the same in them all. Fourth, the Akasa in the jars etc. cannot be said to be a part or transformation of the Maha-akasha, so Jiva can never be a part or modified form of Atma. Fifth, just as to children the Akasa appears as if stained with dirt, so also to the unlightened Manas, Atma appears as bound, as tainted with sin. 6. When a thing comes into existence or is destroyed, when a body goes or comes, the Akasha within undergoes no change, so also the Atma. Accordingly, no jiva, be it with one Atma or different, is ever born or ever dies. For birth and death pertain only to the body. It is therefore meaningless to say that the jiva is born and dies, just as jivas, as seen in the dreams or projected by the juggler's art, Maya or Indrajala, or imagined to dwell in an artificial idol, are supposed to be born and die through. Actually, no jivas are born and die in them. So too, all the jivas are devoid of birth and death, and it is only by illusion that they are said to be born and to die. Thus, no birth or any other change ever befalls jiva. On the other hand, it is only the chitta or manas undergoing these changes that cause them to appear to pertain to Atma. It is only when the jivas come in contact with manas and identify themselves with manas that they appear to be born and die, though immutable in themselves. Unreality of phenomena. In point of fact, even manas has no real existence. Really, it is identical with Chit, the absolute consciousness. Manas is consciousness in motion, as it were. This aspect of Manas is described by Gaudapadacharya, the mouthpiece of ancient tradition, in his Karika on Mandukayopanishad, Alata Santi Prakarna, verse 47 to 52. He speaks of Manas as consciousness in motion. Manas in motion being consciousness in motion, Manas at rest being identical with absolute consciousness. Gaudapadacharya's Karika quoted Alat Shanti Karan Prakarne, stanza number 47. ऋजु वक्रादि का भास मलात स्पंदित यथा ग्रहण ग्राहक भाषम विज्ञान स्पंदितम तथा. It is the firebrand in motion that appears state, crooked and so on. So too, it is the consciousness in motion that appears as perceiver and perception. Consciousness only appears to be in motion owing to avidya. There can be no motion in consciousness, which is immutable. Absolute consciousness is partless, all pervading, unborn, and immutable. This mere semblance of motion in consciousness, which all the while undergoes no real change, is what is called vivarta or illusory change. Stanza number 48 of Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad. असपंद मान मलात मनाभास समजम यथा असम अस्पंद मानम विज्ञान मनाभास समजम तथा. The unmoving firebrand produces no such phenomenon and is unborn. So too, consciousness without motion produces no phenomenon and is unborn. The same firebrand, when at rest, does not appear as state or crooked. So too, consciousness, which was in motion and as it were owing to avidya, ceases on the cessation of avidya to move and give rise to phenomena. For the following reason also, we should regard the phenomena as false. This is explained in stanza number 49 of Gaudapadacharya. Alate sapandamane vai na bhasha anyato bhuva ne tato anyatra nispandanalatam parvishanti te. When the firebrand is in motion, the phenomena do not come from without. They are not gone elsewhere when it is not in motion, nor do they enter the firebrand. We have not seen these phenomena coming from without into the firebrand when it is in motion, or going out of the firebrand when it is at rest, nor do they enter into firebrand when it is at rest, for it is not their upadana or material cause. If firebrand were to be regarded as the material cause and motion as the efficient cause of the phenomena, then on the withdrawal of the latter cause, with motion, the effect should still reside in the material cause, for it cannot be proved that mere absence of the efficient cause is accompanied by disappearance of the effect. Thus, the origin as well as the disappearance of the phenomena being quite inexplicable, the phenomena themselves must be false. Stanza number 50 of Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad. Ne nirgata alatate द्रव्यत्वा भावयोगतः विज्ञाने अपि तथैव सयुराभास्य visheshatah, meaning they do not go out of the firebrand because they are no substances, and so also in the case of consciousness, inasmuch as they are equally phenomenal. The phenomenon of straightness and crookedness are no real substances. They cannot therefore be said to go out of the firebrand as from a house. Indeed, it is a real substance that can enter or go out of another substance. So too, the phenomena of birth and death associated with consciousness are no realities, because they are mere appearances like the straightness and crookedness of the firebrand in the motion. Stanza 51. विज्ञाने स्पंदमाने वै न भाषा अन्य तो भुव न ततो अन्यत्र निस्पंदान विज्ञानम विशन्ति. Stanza 52. न निर्गता विज्ञानते द्रव्यत्वा भावयोगतः कार्य कारणता भावादयोत चिन्तयै सदैव ते. When consciousness is in motion, the phenomenon do not come from without. They do not go elsewhere out of the consciousness when it is at rest, nor do they enter consciousness. They do not go out of the consciousness because they are not substances, unthinkable as they always are, being unrelated as cause and effect. It cannot be held that consciousness being somehow in motion, these phenomena of birth, etc., come into it from without, for there is no testimony of consciousness to that effect, nor can it be held that consciousness being immutable, these phenomena have their being elsewhere, there being no testimony of consciousness to this effect either. Neither can it be said that when they disappear, these phenomena enter into consciousness, for it can never be held that consciousness by itself is the upadana or material cause. Moreover, being unsubstantial and unreal, they cannot enter into or go out of consciousness. Then it may be asked, How is it that they present themselves to consciousness? We answer they are illusory, it being impossible to suppose that consciousness and these phenomena are related to each other as cause and effect. The phenomena are ever inexplicable, and as such they are mere illusions and are therefore unreal. Thus, consciousness is like the firebrand in all respects, only consciousness is never really subject to motion, it is always immutable, not being related as the effects of any cause, as things produced out of something else. The phenomena are non entities and are therefore undefinable. In the case of the firebrand appearing as state or crooked, there exists really nothing state or crooked, and yet there arises with regard to the firebrand the consciousness of a state or crooked thing. Accordingly, though birth etc. do not really exist, the idea of birth etc. arising with reference to pure consciousness is an illusion. I end this video here. Next video number 7 will start with the topic Maya and its action. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends.